Coming to you direct from Silencer Shop Studios, home of the Glass Case of Emotion.
SilencerShop.com, the easiest way to buy silencers online, period.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
Am I here to talk about your feelings? Is that why I'm here? Let's sit down. Lay back on the couch. Let Professor Paul sip on his coffee, and we'll talk about your feelings. How do you feel today?
Lay back on the couch. Are you the psychologist now?
Just relax. Just relax. Let's talk about your childhood.
You know, it's kind of funny that I was listening to a podcast that Tim Ferriss does, and he had...
That is funny.
Yeah, ha, 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 ha. That's the funniest damn thing I ever heard. Tell it again. Anyway, Tim Ferriss had Tony Robbins on, and it's a really good podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to Tim Ferriss. It's actually called The Tim Ferriss Show. So go to your little podcast thingy and look up The Tim Ferriss Show and at least listen to the Tony Robbins episode. There's two of them, but it's the most recent one.
Tony Robbins has there's an not MTV, what am I on, drugs?
Netflix.
Netflix, yeah, has a Netflix special called I'm Not Your Guru.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet. I probably should. But, you know what I have respect for? Alligators.
Do you? Why? What?
You ever go to like your social media and every time...
No, I never go there.
Yeah, every time an alligator gets out and is walking around a neighborhood or across a golf course, or, you know, they get out of the water. They're not really in their natural habitat, and they're like in the cul-de-sac community or something, and they're walking. And you ever watch an alligator walk? He's just like, I don't care about anything. I don't care about you. I'm just going to walk here, and there's nothing you can do about it. How about that? Like
but there is.
That one that was walking across the golf course. He's just like a 15-foot alligator. You know, it's funny, Jared, having lived in Florida for many years and having seen the alligators up really super close. When that golf course video came out and the gator was like 14, 15 feet, something like that, people are jumping all like, oh, that's Photoshopped. Like, first of all, how do you Photoshop a video? I mean,
you could do it.
That's like CGI.
Yeah.
It's like I had $20,000 just laying around to CGI this alligator on here. And they're like, oh, they don't get that big. Yeah, they do. They do get that big. Something that Yankees don't understand is that, you know, alligators don't ever stop growing.
They just die.
Yeah, they keep growing until they die. So they
Depends
just
on how much food they can get.
As long as they can keep getting a hold of food, they just keep growing and growing and growing. They had one in Mayaca State Park, which is in Florida. And they called him Old Mo, and he was the tour guides are like, he's like 100 years old or something. We're like, okay, well, rock on. But he was approximately, I think it was 16 or 17 feet. And they said he'd been there since they started the park or something. But it was he was long. He was as long as the boats, some of the boats that would go out. But yeah, when people are like, oh, they don't get that big. I don't think they get that big. It's like, yeah, they do. But I don't know. Somebody just, one of my many follower friend type acquaintances posted a video of an alligator walking through a subdivision, and I thought, you know, and they're never even in a hurry. They're just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to walk through here, and there's not a damn thing you're going to do about it. They're killing machines, folks. They are absolute killing machines, and they live to eat. They're basically just like eating machines, and if they think that you will fit in their mouth, eventually they will kill you. And it's not because they don't like you, just because that's the way God made them. God made them to eat and destroy whatever they can get in their mouths. And you know what they love? Dogs. Mm-hmm. Dogs are like alligator caviar. If you wanted to bait a trap to catch an alligator, you would put a dog in it. you'd put like a Chihuahua or a Dachshund or something like that in a trap, and you would catch an alligator for sure.
A Chihuahua.
See, I'm not kidding. It would have to be live, you know.
Yeah.
Like, like gator. You get yourself an 8-10 foot gator with a Chihuahua.
Yeah. The gator would be like, "What are you doing?" No, you have to walk them by the side of the water. Well, you can't just leave them in a trap.
Yeah, that's what you do. Is you put if you really wanted to catch a gator, you'd put a great big, like a 10 gauge barbed hook on the end of the leash. When you walk Fifi or Fufu, when you walk your little poodle down by the edge of the canal there, just put it like an 18 gauge or 10 gauge big barbed hook, and make sure that you're ready to let go. You just take the leash. I'm helping you guys. Take the leash, and you run a cable through it, and you run a cable to a jug, right? To like a big or a barrel or something. And then when he comes up out of the canal and nails your poodle, he'll get hooked on that barb, and it'll pull that jug, and he'll drag it around, and you'll know where to find him.
Yeah, you probably need a whole entire 55-gallon drum.
Well, I don't know. Apparently was it the 5-gallon ones? Apparently the 5-gallon ones, a 5-gallon, they can't pull it under. But, all right, moving on. Enough frivolity, just enough fun and frivolity. If you're preparing for a storm or for a camping trip or for the end of the world or whatever you're preparing for, Jared has decided that we're going to work with Fontana Sports, Fontana sports.com. And if you go to fontanasports.com/SOTG, well, that's the gateway, and you can, basically you're going to save 10% on everything site-wide. And how cool is that? You get to do that just because we love you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, it's a 60-day special, and we're about a week or so into the 60 days, so you might want to take advantage of that. Crossbreed holsters, why? Well, because it's the most comfortable inside of the waistband holster you're ever going to wear. That's the only reason why. And somebody posted a question recently about the horsehide backing on the Crossbreed and whether or not it was worth it and whether or not it would sweat through. Now, the answer is anything is going to sweat through, but
it doesn't as bad, though.
It doesn't anywhere nearly as bad. Even down here, you kind of got to be outside for a long time, in the summer to generate enough sweat to sweat through a horsehide backing. The little thin cowhide ones, just a warm day and you'll sweat through them. Yeah, somebody like, well, my X holster from different company has a cowhide back and I sweat through that. I'm like, well, duh. What do we tell you?
What is it, like $10, $15 extra to get the?
Yeah, I don't know how much it is, but it's worth it. I'm gonna go look
right now.
It's worth it. When you order if you're going to order one, an inside the waistband holster, a Super Tuck Deluxe from Crossbreed, make sure that you can do whatever you want. I don't give a crap. But my recommendation to you is that you spend the extra money. If you're serious about carrying a gun every day, that's what I would do. If you're not serious about it, then I don't care. Go to the gun shop and buy that $9.99 one-size-fits-all stitched Chinese holster. There you go. Do we want to talk about the box of regret?
It's plus $15 for horsehide, okay. So just spend the $15.
Divide 15 over 365 and tell me how much that is per day savings if you're really going to wear a gun every day. Let's talk about our friends at Frog Lube. Frog Lube. Now, apparently Jason thinks it's funny when I say that you should Frog Lube your sword. But
Burnett?
No, Mace.
Oh, Mace.
Yeah. He thinks it's funny, but it's true. You should Frog Lube your sword. If you have a carbon steel sword, you should Frog Lube it. I'm just saying that's what you need to do. Why? Well, it's green. It's minty fresh. It is a bio-based firearms lubricant, and that's all you need to know. And, what else is it? It's extreme.
That wasn't very extreme.
Extreme! Is that extreme enough for you?
That was okay. That was mediocre at best.
Shut up. I'm not blowing out my esophagus laryngitis here. Century Arms, the sweetest smelling arms maker in the U.S. of A. Check them out. And, well, like I said, they've got the TP9 SA, the SF, the V2, the C39 V2. If you're a manly man, you want to pick up the C39 RPK. But I know that there's only a small percentage of our audience that can handle the C39 RPK. But if you're in that percentage, you might want to go ahead and pick yourself up one. I'm just saying. It's Wednesday. Are you excited? Oh, look at you out there. Oh, you're just a Twitter, aren't you? You just are. You're just a Twitter. Well, it's time for our SWAT Fuel Fitness Talk, brought to you by Kellogg's Frosted Flakes.
Brought to you by SWAT Fuel. Now, we also have another segment brought to you by SWAT Fuel on Mondays, and I want you to call 682-207, I was going to say, without the area code, but they need the area code.
You think?
Yeah. So it's 682-207-4018. Call that and leave an intelligent question, and if we play it on Monday, then you win. Now, for the fitness talk, you guys obviously get your little giddy song.
Physically fit, physically fit, physically fit, woman, physically fit, physically fit, woman, nice, sweet, fantastic, mix your body out in the big tight and woman, nice, sweet, energetic, mix your body out in the big tight and woman, nice, sweet, fantastic, mix your body out in the big tight and woman, nice, sweet, fantastic, mix your body out in the big tight.
So I experienced something last night at the gym. I was working out with the guys over in the dungeon area in Fight University. And one of the guys was out in the lobby area, and he was kind of doing some shadow boxing. And he was trying to figure out what his problem was. And we had just got done sparring for, 2 or 3 rounds. And I already knew what the problem was because I had watched him and I sparred with him for a round. And the problem was that he was flat-footed the entire time, which, as you guys know, most athletes know that you cannot be flat-footed and move at the same time. So I went out there and I told him, I said, your problem is that you're flat-footed and you need to be up on your toes, and here's how to fix it. Told him how to fix it, and then him and I both went back into the gym, and he proceeded to tell the other people that he knew the solution. He knew how he was going to fix it, and he knew his problem. And so I just looked at him and I said, you know how you're going to fix the problem? And he said, yeah, you just told me. I said, no, do you know how you're going to fix the problem? And he said, how? And I said, by doing it. Go over and do something about it rather than telling them that you're going to do something about it. And I wasn't being, I can't say what I was going to say on the radio, but I wasn't being a smart ass.
A meanie? We weren't being a meanie?
I was being serious. If you know the solution to your problem, then go do that. Do what you need to do to make that problem go away. And I was listening to that podcast this morning with Tim Ferriss and Tony Robbins, and Tony mentioned Jim Rohn, and who's another entrepreneur speaker. And he mentioned a quote from him. It kind of drove it home. And the quote is, don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action. And that's by Jim Rohn. And I was like, wow, that's genius. And I've heard that quote in different forms, but I never knew the source of it.
You're absolutely right. And if you look at our world today, if any problem that we encounter as a society, as individuals, most people don't have the problem. They don't experience the problem because they don't know a solution.
Yeah.
It's not that they're lacking of a solution. They actually know. I mean, let's face it. Somebody is 50 pounds overweight, and they look in the mirror, or they get halfway up the stairs and have to grab the handrail and catch their breath. They know that, and it's not like, well, man, I don't know how to do this. I have no idea how to shed this extra 50 pounds. Yeah, actually you do. You know the answer, but you're not applying the answer. You're not taking action. Look at our world. Look at the problems we have in the United States of America, or on anywhere on planet Earth. We see the problem, and we say, that's a problem. I wish we had a solution. And you say, well, no, we have the solution, and this is what it is. Yeah, but, and Jared, why don't people take action? Because it requires...
Because it's hard and it requires effort.
Effort. That's right. It requires effort. It requires commitment. It's way easier to post on Facebook about how annoyed you are and how dumb things are and how everything is, because that requires no commitment from you. That requires no effort. You don't take a risk. You don't sweat. You don't put yourself out there when you're posting on Facebook. But to actually take the solution and apply it and make it happen, well, that's hard. That's difficult. I might actually be uncomfortable for 5 minutes. And, well, we know how is the world today? We can't risk not being comfortable.
Yeah, and there's a flip side to that, and this is an entirely separate fitness talk. It's just the people that think they know the answer to their problems, but they don't really. But they don't want to admit that. And men especially are really bad about this, is they want to make excuses. Well, I knew what I was doing. I'm like, no, you don't. I've heard that so many times where I provide a solution to somebody, particularly in fighting and fitness. And they're like, well, I knew what I was doing and I need to do this and I need to do this. I'm like, I just told you exactly what you need to do. Just listen. And it's mostly new people. Yeah, and it's not a bad thing. Just admit that you don't know and move on. Ignorance is not a bad thing. Choosing to be ignorant is bad.
Yeah, it's like the only shame, and I'm going to say this and then we can move on to the next section, but the only shame in weakness is being comfortable with it. And so that is the end of SWAT Fuel Fitness Talk today. But we want to remind you, go to SWATfuelstore.com and use the promo code SOTG 2015, and you're going to save yourself some money off your SWAT Fuel order. Do it today.
Attention, new listeners. We produced a free training video series called 7 Training Tips That Could Save Your Life. We want you to have access to this life-saving information. Get instant access now at studentofthegun.com. Do you watch Student of the Gun TV, read the blog, and follow us on Facebook? If you answered no to any of those questions, you are wrong, but you can easily fix yourself. Go to studentofthegun.com to find everything SOTG.
You know, Jared, I have a problem. Can I share it with you?
Sure. We just talked about this.
Yeah, I have a problem. When I get a stock factory gun, just a plain black gun, my first thought is I need to put some color on that. I just, that's my...
Well, that's kind of racist,
my
if you ask
instinct,
me.
you know. Well, I mean, it's color.
You're not happy with it because it's black?
Well, it's sometimes it could be blue. Sometimes it could be Parkerized. But when I get a plain gun like that, my first thought is, you know what it's like? It's kind of like an empty canvas.
Yeah.
When I get that, remember when we did we put that camouflage pattern on the Century Arms shotgun? They have the semi-auto shotgun that's called the Chickamauga. No, it's not called the Chickamauga. The Catamount. That's it.
Chickamauga.
I knew it was a C or something, but anyway. My first thought was, I have to color this. That's just, and we did. I think it came out pretty.
He's
well,
like a kid with crayons and a blank paper.
I do. I have a brand new box of 60. It's like I have a 64 pack of Crayolas, and I have to color.
Like
I have to color
damage.
the world. That's right. Well, how could you do that? Well, you could do that if you popped over to LauerWeaponry.com.
I think that somebody else has the hashtag color the world, but I don't know.
Probably. But Duracoat could do that. Duracoat, color the world. And you can't color the world with Duracoat because it comes in, they have the can technology, which means you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to have your shop. I know a lot of people have shied away from refinishing their own guns because they think, well, I don't have a compressor and I don't have the brushes. I don't have the, hoses and filters, and I don't have any of that stuff. And I really, I'm just going to do one gun. I'm not going to invest $1,000 in a refinishing shop for one gun. Well, Steve Lauer is a freaking genius, and he's got the solution for you. You just go to LauerWeaponry.com and you order whatever color you want, and he sends it to you in a can, and bam, you do it in your garage.
Between that and the tattoos, I think that you could pretty much do a professional-looking color.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. So, Duracoat, why? Because life is too short to have an ugly gun. All right. We don't have we don't have, Jared? I guess we don't do enough Germany ones to have.
I'm about to pull one up.
Oh, you are? All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and intro the folks, and Jared's going to come up with an intro song for this. But remember last week, if you are hipcats, now Jared, I can't remember. Did we just do it on last week's grad program, where the German president went out and told the people, he's like, look, it's not our responsibility to protect you or to keep you safe, and even if we wanted to, we can't. So you're on your own. Well, that was last week. Well, we've got a brand new story from Germany this week because, well, they're part of that European Union, and it's just basically falling apart on them. Du hast mich.
I've never seen the video to this song, and it's kind of weird.
How could I forget Rammstein? How could I forget it? I don't know. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed of myself for having forgotten the Rammstein. You go ahead and over there. You put that down every time we do a German.
There's so many. I want to use the other Rammstein song for the grad program.
Yeah. We have used that, but I think it offended some people, and they had to go sit over in the corner.
If they're part of the grad program and they're offended, then they can
rock back and forth and cry. But oh man, I almost made the turntable fall off my desk there.
Yeah, actually, when you listen to this, it actually sounded like that was part of the song.
I can't wait.
Your voice, your vocals.
I can't wait to hear what this sounds like when it happens. But Germany to tell people to stock. What kind of a weird farfignugan? And this comes from Reuters.com. That is our source for this. Germany to tell people to stockpile. Germany to tell people to stockpile food. I got an idea. How about this, Reuters? Germany tells its people to stockpile food and water in case of attacks. FAS. The Frankfurter Allgemeine Sonntagszeitung. Tagzeitung. I think I got it there. For the first time since the end of the Cold War, the German government plans to tell citizens. It's planning to tell them. Why don't you just tell them? No, we're not going to tell you yet. We're going to plan to tell you. Is that one of the most retarded sentences you ever heard? We're planning to tell the people to stockpile food and water just in case of an attack or a catastrophe, the Frankfurter Allgemeine Sonntagszeitung newspaper reported on Sunday. Germany is currently on high alert after 2 Islamist attacks. Oh, you're going to hell for that one. You can't say that. You mean 2 random attacks that have nothing to do with the religion of peace? 2 Islamic attacks and a shooting rampage by a mentally unstable teenager who just happened to be a member of the death cult of Islam, but whatever. Berlin announced measures earlier this month to spend considerably more on its police and security forces. I got an idea. How about you don't just let tens of thousands of monsters into your country and just scatter them out amongst the people? You could try that. You could try that. That might be a good idea.
I'm sorry, but I have to say this. Going back to the first paragraph, the name. Okay, it says the Frankfurter Allgemeine Sonntagszeitung newspaper. Mm-hmm. Do they not know? Does Reuters not know that? Oh, I'm sorry. Does Reuters not know that Sonntagszeitung means Sunday newspaper? So they put Sunday newspaper.
Is that kind of like ATM machine?
Yeah.
You know that drives your brother crazy.
Does it?
Oh, it drives him crazy. It's like, and you know what really made, just a quick left turn here. They did that on Breaking Bad. Apparently on Breaking Bad, Walter White said ATM machine, and it just drove Zach up the wall. What does the M in ATM machine stand for?
AT machine.
Yeah, the automatic teller machine.
Yeah.
At the automatic teller machine. The Sunday newspaper.
I just couldn't let it go. I had to say something.
Auf Deutsch. Good job there. All right, Berlin announced measures earlier this month to spend considerably more on its police and security forces and to create... Where is it?
You need your doll?
I need it. Listen to this. In the year 2016, they've decided they're going to create a special unit to counter cybercrime and terrorism. You worthless, stupid, moronic, learned nothing from history human beings. All right, all you kids out there, you young crumb crunchers, back in the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s, when we had a very, very serious communist-inspired terrorist problem, the socialists, the progressive socialists, all across the world were causing problems for everybody, particularly in Europe and the United States. And they were sponsored by the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union funneled them money and guns and support through different intermediaries. And West Germany had this little unit called the GSG-9. And you had you had the GSG-9.
GSG-9 and the WG.
In West Germany. You had the British SAS. You had...
were they sassy?
Yeah. In the United States, you had Special Forces Detachment Delta. And the French had the GIGN. But these were all serious, hardcore, badass anti-terrorism units. So, what the Farfignugan, Germany? What the Farfignugan? And the GSG-9 were cutting-edge counter-terrorists. The bad guys were really afraid of them. Dude, I know you guys, you young people, if you're under 40, you're like, what's this guy talking about? I've never heard of that in my life.
Is the GSG-9 kind of equivalent to the armed police?
On place! On place! Like, oh. Is that what they teach in the academy in Great Britain?
Yeah.
Like when they hand them like, all right, we're going to hand you a gun, and you're going to run around the range screaming, on place! On place! I have to warn you before I shoot you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track.
Oh, man. But seriously, what the Farfignugan? Here we go. Listen to this. Here we got a quote from a government minister here. The population will be obliged to hold an individual supply of food for 10 days. The newspaper quoted the government's concept for civil defense, which has been prepared by the Interior Ministry. Wow.
You know what's
wow
dumbfounding to me? Is that people have to be told to have enough food and water.
Exactly. It like, we have to tell, how is it that we have to tell modern humans, you're like, hey, buddy, yeah, what's up? You know what you should do? No, what should I do? You should have food in your house. What?
I mean, seriously, if you can't survive for 5 days...
I should have food in my house?
Without going to the store, then...
But...
You're wrong.
But... What? Why should I have food in my house? I mean, there's always going to be a 24-hour McDonald's, right? We've conditioned the modern humans to be so farking weak. They're so weak. You know, my mom and my grandmother, they were preppers. They're like, your mom was a prepper? Yeah. Yeah, when I was a little kid, my mom had a garden. She did she get permission from the state to grow the food? Did the FDA come and say that it was okay? I don't know if you're allowed to do that. Are you allowed? You know, some cities in the United States, Jared, there are cities that have actually closed down people's gardens. Yeah. That have stopped them from gardening.
There's people that have been jailed for collecting rainwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no. In the summertime, you know, in the spring, my mom would be out there and she'd till the ground and she'd, you know, block everything off and make the rows. And she's like, okay, corn's going here and beans are going here and peas are going here and tomatoes are going here and so forth. And then she'd go out and weed during the summer, pull the weeds out and water.
I think that means something different in 2016.
And, you know, in the fall, we'd, you know, harvest and then she'd be in the kitchen canning.
I remember helping Grandma can, and I remember helping Papaw do his tilling in his garden.
Yeah, he had a garden. He had a garden every year, you know. And they would can, and I know half our audience is like, "What's that?" Put the food in the jars and you store it, and it's like some kind of mystical science.
I love
it's like
canned
witchcraft,
peaches.
you know. And we had. Back in the olden days, or the old crazy days, when they built houses, they built them with these things called pantries. A pantry? What the heck's a pantry? Or we had a house that had a fruit cellar. A fruit cellar? Did you live on a fruit farm? No. Listen, kids. For like the entire history of man up till the last 30 or 40 years, people knew that when you built a house, there should be an area in the house where you store food. Oh, we have that. There's a cupboard over the refrigerator. It's got two sides. And no. I'm not talking about a place that you can put 12 cans of beans. I'm talking about an actual room off the kitchen, imagine a large closet. And you stored food in there. Because why? Because you're a crazy prepper and you thought the world was going to end. No, because my mom and my grandmothers, they all knew that they're like, you know what? I bet you everybody in this house is going to want to eat tomorrow. They're probably going to want to eat the next day, too. I looked at the calendar, and I couldn't think of any days coming up this month where people in this house weren't going to want to eat. What? People are going to want to eat every day? That's crazy talk. You're just a crazy person. You're a conspiracy theorist. Why would you want to do that when you can just drive to the store every other day? Exactly. Until you can't drive to the store every other day. But, Farfignugan, I tell you what. Well, speaking of socialism and speaking of communism and the wonders of the progressive socialist movement across the world. You remember this little place called Venezuela? Well, they had this, Comrade Barry's bestest buddy. You know, Comrade Barry never met a communist he didn't like, and neither had CNN, MSNBC, or any of the mainstream media. Little country down there in South America called Venezuela. And Hugo Chavez, the president/dictator, was going to usher in an era of just, it was going to be the greatest time in the world, I tell you. Everything was going to be fair. Remember, because when the socialists come around, they tell you that capitalism is unfair. And that's dead. It's just dead as a system. And we just need to figure out the best form of socialism because that's fair.
I need to play this.
Go ahead.
I like to teach you all the rules. I get to see them set in stone. I like it when you chain me to the bed, but then you see me stand the show.
That's our slave state update. So, what's going on in Venezuela? Well, here's what we know. Hugo Chavez is dead, and the wonderful communist administration that he set up down there is falling apart. He destroyed. Jared, do you know that the Venezuelan that their climate is such that they actually are they could grow food all year long. It's not like Minnesota or
That's
Iowa. Nice. We got places like Iowa. Okay, Iowa can produce if they went full bore, I think Iowa could produce enough grain and wheat for the whole world just in Iowa. Right? And they only have a 6-month growing season. They actually have a hard winter. So Venezuela, climate-wise, it's full of oil, so they should be flush with cash. They have essentially a year-round growing season. Well, but what do communists do? What do socialists do? They make everything equal, yeah. An equal distribution of misery. So, the people are starving. That's not new. It's not new that the people of Venezuela are starving because they destroyed the capacity for the country to produce food. That's not good enough. Well, what do we know? Well, when you've destroyed the economy and the people are getting antsy, they're having food riots and stuff. They're rioting over cans of beans and toilet paper. No big deal there. A recent report out of crime-ridden Venezuela. Now, hang on. How can that be? It was supposed to be a people's paradise. Crime-ridden Venezuela is a reminder to gun owners, and the sources from theconservativereview.com, gun owners of the importance of remaining watchful in putting pro-gun politicians, how about pro-liberty politicians in office? Over 2,000 shotguns and pistols were destroyed in the capital city of Caracas as a part of a new gun control push. The event marked, quote, the renewal of the efforts to disarm Venezuelans through a combination of seizures and a voluntary program to swap guns for electrical goods. The government went so far as using laser technology to register ammunition, since much of gun violence in Venezuela is perpetrated by using government weapons that were either stolen from police departments or military depots or sold to gangs by corrupt government officials. Where have we heard that before? Can you imagine, Jared, a country where government officials would deliberately funnel guns into the hands of gang members?
Nah, never heard of it.
I think that they need to scrap the Venezuelan government for doing that. They need to find out who these corrupt government officials are and get rid of them. They all need to be jailed.
Well, you know how that goes.
Yeah, I mean,
in a free country, you know how that goes.
Yeah,
let alone there.
So they're using lasers to register ammunition, and the picture that goes along with this, they've got torches out and. You're like, what kind of shotgun is it? Is it like a Ferranchi Spaz or like a USAS, street sweeper or something? It's a single shot breech loading shotgun that they're cutting up with a torch. See, the Venezuelan peasants can't even be allowed to have a single shot 12 gauge. And the cops are all standing around watching. That is what you get when you want everything to be fair and free. All right, kids, that's it. That's all we've got for you for today's episode of Student of the Gun Radio. I hope you appreciated it. And if you didn't, I want you to write to P.O. Box 405, Boulder, Colorado, for a complete and total refund of today's purchase price. Now, we'll be back tomorrow. Hey, guess what? Little Johnny Jihad has found his way to West Virginia. What? Really? Yep. You wouldn't believe it, but then again, this is 2016 under the rule of Comrade Barry Soetoro. All right, you don't want to miss tomorrow's show, folks. Remember, you're a beginner once. You should indeed be a student for life.